So welcome to this webinar about everyday justice in Myanmar. Welcome to people from around the world, especially of course those who are in Myanmar at this time. We're very happy to have you here. My name is Susanne Kempel. I'm a researcher and analyst who've lived in Myanmar for many years, but we're now broadcasting this partly from Copenhagen, partly from Yangon. I have not been involved in the project that we will be talking about in the book that will be launched, but I'm here to be a moderator. I would like to tell you a little bit about what we will be doing today. So we'll be talking about this book, Everyday Justice in Myanmar. We'll be talking about some of the issues that the book touches upon and what are the implications for Myanmar community, Myanmar society is a bit broader. We will do it in a way that after this initial introduction by me, we will do a series of shorter presentations. The first one, before the presentations, there will be a short discussion with the project coordinator, who's Helene Marie Kyd. And after that, we will follow on with presentation for some of the case studies that are involved, that are included in the book. Following on from that, we will have a discussion from here between the panelists. And finally, there'll be an opportunity for all of those of you following to ask questions. So you'll be able to, you can write questions on Zoom and we'll have a look at them and see how many of them we can respond. You can already start asking questions as we go along, but we will only be looking at them towards the end of the session. And we got 105 minutes for this, so I just want to wish everybody an enjoyable time, and we're very much looking forward to this. So Helene, this is the book that is the result of a lot of work, not just by you, but also a lot of people in Myanmar. Can you let us know a little bit about what are some of the key topics or some of the key points that people can take away from this book?
Yeah, so our ambition with this book was really to try to find out from a very local perspective, from the perspective of people in the borderlands, in the slums of Yangon, how people resolve disputes and crimes. Where do they go in this wider context of the Myanmar transition after decades of military rule and civil conflict? Which actors do people actually go to, but also how do they actually perceive security and justice from their localized perspectives among the different ethnic minority groups, but also among the majority Bamar book. And one of the key findings, which is the most simple one, I'll elaborate a bit on it, is that what we see in Myanmar is a pluralism of actors who engage in this field, a pluralism of actors that go way beyond the official state institutions of justice, like the courts and the police, which we associate with the official state justice. And rather what we are seeing is a plethora or a multiplicity of actors, especially at the very local level, village leaders, village administrators, but also religious leaders. And what we found in some of the border areas was also that the ethnic armed organizations have also established parallel legal systems. And we have many case studies in the book, and we'll come back to that, but we do have four sort of key findings that go across the chapters. And one is this widespread preference for having disputes and crimes resolved at as low a level as possible and in largely informal ways. The other cross-cutting issues and takeaway from the book is that a lot of what goes on is what we define, drawing partly on James C. Scott's work, as state evasion, that people try as much as they can to avoid going to the official state institutions. We discussed the deeper historical reasons for that. We also have asked people to give their reasons for not using the state institutions. And the third cross-cutting issue relates a lot to that question, why people evade the state. And that is, besides that people often see it as costly, there are problems of corruption also in the official system. Sometimes there's a long distance to the state institutions. But what we found out is that it's not only sort of what we could call the failure of the state institutions to provide justice, but also that people are very much influenced by what we in the book call cultural and religious norms and beliefs, which influence the way that people understand justice, which is always, often very different from the way that justice and law is used in the official system, such as a preference for reconciliation, compensation, social harmony, rather than the punishment of perpetrators. These are some of the key things that cut across. And the last sort of takeaway or point that we have across the book is that identity politics, as many of you will know who know about Myanmar here, it plays also a very significant role in everyday forms of justice, both in terms of who you approach as a justice provider with a similar ethnic or religious identity, but also in terms of who are excluded from access to justice in different spheres and at different levels. And I think some of the presenters that will come on from now will also get more into these questions about inclusion and exclusion.
Thank you. It sounds like overall, so this book actually looks at the perspectives of local people correctly, and looks at how local people deal with disputes and crimes. Who do they turn to? And what are the ways in which they perceive injustice? And you've just given some overall points about that, partly, but not fully, answers the questions that the project seeks to answer. I'm wondering if you could let us know a bit about the process, the journey of this research project. How did it start? Who have been involved? What have been maybe some of the challenges? And where are we now? So
this book is, you know, you can't call a book a baby because it's just a material thing. But it is become a bit of a family project, I would say. So it emerged out of this large research project called Everyday Justice and Security in the Myanmar Transition, which popularly we call EverJust. And it's a collaboration between researchers here at the Danish Institute for International Studies, where we are sitting now, and from Aarhus University. Michael is with us here today. Annika could unfortunately not join us, but is also part of the book from Aarhus. And then with the researchers from the anthropology department at Yangon University and from the research NGO, the Enlightened Myanmar Research Foundation. So we are a group of researchers from Denmark and from Myanmar, and from Myanmar of different ethnicities, of different ages. We're all women except Michael, but we have worked together. We've done fieldwork together. We have done analysis together, and we have also published in other places, but this book is sort of the joint effort of this collaboration that we have done over the years. And I'm very proud of the work that we have done. I'm also very, very happy that we've all been able to publish together in this book. And you asked also about the challenges and difficulties. I mean, some of the things that we are always asked, it's how did you get access, you know, after all these years that Myanmar have been closed for this kind of very in-depth ethnographic research. We really wanted to not just do 2 or 3 day visits to each field site, but really get in-depth knowledge of the everyday life, and also asking questions about sensitive issues like how people get their disputes and crimes resolved. Required a lot of investment, first of all, to get access to areas, but also to gain the trust of people around Myanmar. I mean, we've done a lot of our field research in Southeast Myanmar, where there are ceasefires now, but have gone through a long history of conflict. We've done it in the slum areas of Yangon, especially Langdaya township, but also smaller ethnic communities in other places in Yangon. We've been to Pao, Naga, and Danu areas, several visits over several periods of time. So a lot of hard work and dedication, but that's also why it's so nice to sit with this book today and with the people who have been part and contribute. And we have also been very lucky that Kirsten McConaughey, who did some amazing field research in Karen refugee camps in Thailand, on legal pluralism has also contributed here, and Elizabeth Rhodes, who has done some wonderful ethnographic research on property transactions and brokers in Yangon, also agreed to publish in the book because, of course, we could not cover all areas. And we also have Marie Richthammer, who was an intern in the Everjust projects for a while, who has also contributed with the chapter. So thanks to them also, besides our own team of Everjust.
I understand this book is written in English, and this webinar today is also in English. We will have a number of speakers from Myanmar. But can you say anything about when will it be available in Myanmar? Will there be any seminar in Myanmar at any time, maybe even in Burma Sagar in local languages, so that it actually reaches a broader audience than the many people who are joining today?
Yeah, so I mean, there are several reasons why we're doing a webinar, which besides I'm starting to like the format because we can get a large audience as we have today from all over the world. But actually the original plan was that this book should have already by now had been launched physically, and with people from all the regions of Myanmar, representatives from all our fieldwork areas attending, where the book would also have been made available and discussed in Myanmar language, and we would also have produced pamphlets in different local languages. But because of the devastating situation of COVID-19, this has not been possible. We are hoping to do the event in March, but we have to see how the event goes. The book is available to purchase now on the DIIS Press website, but it will also be printed in Thailand at more affordable prices through Silkworm. And I know that Trine will later share the link so that it can also be ordered in Asia at a different price than through the European outlets. So definitely this is a huge ambition of the project as well. It's not just to communicate our research results in an international context, but definitely also in a Myanmar context.
Thank you. Yeah. I have one more question, but I think I'll leave that for after some of the presentations. For now, looking at this in a broader perspective before we go into the presentations, one of the subtitles of your book is Informal Resolutions and State Evasion in a Time of Contested Transition. And this reminds me of that there's much talk about Myanmar being in a transition, and people know where it is, the country and its people are transitioning from, but nobody knows where's Myanmar transitioning to, and will it actually transition further in terms of both state-society relations, rule of law, and access to justice. So I think you will see now, for those of you listening, that the field work and the case studies, they actually look at within this context of transition. And when we particularly look at access to justice, what does that look like to normal people? What does that mean for local people? What is actually the situation on the ground? And then I hope that we can have a discussion following on from the presentations about why does this matter, and where can we take this issue beyond a great and interesting book. So I think now we will move on. Thank you still for listening out there in different places. So we'll go to the first person who will be presenting. So this will be Luta, who will be presenting on customary law in Naga self-administrated zone. So I would like to give the word to Luta, who can maybe also introduce herself. You're welcome.
Thank you very much, Susanne. Yes, I'm Luta from Untitled Myanmar Research Foundation. Today, I would like to present the chapter 3 in the book. It is about the customary law, why the customary law is so strong in Naga self-administered zone. I wrote this chapter together with Nyate Tissa and Heli Maria Kate. The Naga self-administered zone is located in hilly area in the northwestern corner of Myanmar on the border to India. This field work for this chapter was conducted in Leshi Township. We focus on the Naga tribe. This means that our study cannot generalize across all Naga subgroups. There are about 9 official subgroups of Naga inside Myanmar. However, we do draw out some important similarities in how customary law is practiced among the Naga. A core argument of this chapter is that customary justice system of the Naga still today plays a key role in the justice provisions and in regulating social life. Since in 1990s, the Naga tribal leaders have also tried to strengthen customary law, this including codifications of Naga customary law book and setting up of customary courts all level, village to central level, which are known as the Naga Literature and Culture Committee. This effort of strengthening customary law seeks to provide, improve Naga people's access to justice, and they are also important to Naga nations building, a core aim to unite the Naga subgroup around a shared Naga identity and to protect this identity against the political influence of Burma state-led nations building. Right now, there are also efforts by the Naga tribal leader to have the Naga customary law recognized by the Myanmar state. Despite the differences across Naga tribe, Naga customary justice is based on a number of shared principles. These include compensation, reconciliations, and shaming as remedies. Dispute resolution mechanism also involved in consent with the threat seeking by using witnesses, trial by ordeal, and oaths. Naga tribal leader also explained that they use village cleansing ritual to make the offender or his or her family feel shame for an offense. They do not use the prison, and a core aim is to ensure social harmony. In short, these principles of justice are very different from how official state court and law operates. In the chapter, we try to explain why Naga customary law is strong among the Naga, and why, for instance, may Naga present not to use state system. We base this in in-depth case studies and numerous interviews. We suggested that there are at least 4 reasons for the continued strengthening of the customary system among Naga. 3 are internal reason and 1 are external reason. Firstly, an important internal factor for explaining the strengthening of Naga customary law is the social organizations of the Naga that knit together people through what is called the Padasu. The Padasu are groups that bond all together, male and female, on the patrilineal side within same tribe. They protect each other, help each other in dispute resolution, security, and in ensure social harmony with other people. We learned that the Padasu is very important as first instance for dispute resolution, and it remained important even when case move further up in Naga justice system, like a township or central level. The Padasu sometimes stand in for the victims or offenders when relations are so tense. And it takes a responsibility to pay for compensations. Secondly, the strengthening of customary justice practice among Naga is related to those efforts by the Naga tribal leader to consolidate the Naga customary system by codifying the common customary law book and by setting up court at different levels the Naga customary law book. Naga customary law book was codified in 2003. It covers all types of cases, including murder and rape. It followed the customary principle of compositions and reconciliations. The purpose is to bring the different tribes together under one law. And as I said earlier, it is also an important part of Naga nation's building today. Thirdly, the witnesses of the Naga tribal leader to adjust customary law to wider change in society is an important part of strengthening customary justice among the Naga. In the chapter, we particularly look at changes related to gender. Traditionally, the Naga gender relations are very unequal, given that it is a patriarchal society. Women cannot inherit and they cannot divorce. But this is slowly changing now. It is also reflect in amendment of the customary law. The tribal leaders are also trying to adjust the customary law book to different among village and tribes. There are also a wish to invite legal experts to amend the customary law. Fourthly, of the external factor, the strength of customary system cannot be understood independently of the view and experience that most Naga have to official Myanmar state justice system. This system is not seen as a provider of justice. People do not trust the state system, and state system does not provide the kind of justice that the Naga people prefer. The mistrust in the state system is strongly influenced by the long history of military rules and operations of the majority group. In the conclusions of the chapter, we discuss the possibility for state recognitions of Naga customary. We ask what it would mean for the identity of a Naga, what would it mean for gender relation, and how such recognition need to make sure that we avoid elite power capture of customary law. In the question and answer session, you are very welcome to ask more questions about this through we have about recognition. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Luther, for that fascinating and very concise presentation. I understand you are actually the senior research manager at MREF, one of the key organizations involved in this project. And then, are you also Naga yourself, or?
Yes, I'm also Naga. Yes, I myself is Naga, yes.
Okay, because that's very interesting in terms of what perspective you're coming with when you've been doing your research. So thank you, and I'm sure there'll be some questions. And I actually know there are people up in Nagaland who are watching, so hello to them also. So thank you for that. We will now move on to the next presentation. So this presentation is by Professor Lewin Moore. And what she's looking at is dispute resolution and perceptions of security among urban Karen. There you go.
Good afternoon, honorable guests, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Professor Dr. Lewin Moore, Department of Anthropology, University of Yangon, Myanmar. Today, I would like to introduce my chapter in NIES book. It is about chapter 5, page 169 to 194. It is about the dispute resolutions and perceptions of security among urban Karen, the role of religious and ethnic identity. This chapter explores everyday dispute resolutions and perceptions of security among urban Baptist Sakor Karen, residents of Kasako, a pseudonym for the village or ward situated in Insane Township in Yangon City. It is based on ethnographic fieldwork during 2016 to 2019. My arguments in this chapter is that Christian religious norms and a shared ethnic Karen identity strongly influence village residents of perceptions of security and how they prefer to deal with social disputes and crimes. Also, The dominant practice of keeping dispute resolution within the Karen community forms part of continuous identity formation and to produce and maintain a Karen ethnic identity. My chapter shows that identity coupled with religious norms and activities is an important factor in understanding legal pluralisms in Kasako. Kasako village, actually it is a ward, but I use a ward village preferred by the residents, is situated within a Myanmar state administrated area and falls under a ward Burma administrator, and thus Myanmar law and institutions officially apply to the area. Baptist Karen prefers to find resolution within their own religious and ethnic community and inside their village. They deal their problems inside the family or church community, or they report their socioeconomic cases to the village and religious leaders of Karen Baptists. They nurture their image as peaceful, honest, and harmonious people and a shared identity grounded in this image. Their shared Karen identity is given by village residents as an explanation for the fact that Kasako village is a secure and peaceful area. They believe that there is a strong connection between shared ethnic identity and security or peace. These chapters, I also mention about 8 sub-factors. These are linking legal pluralisms with religion and identity, a brief history of Karen struggles and identity formation, the quiet Karen Baptists of Kasako, disputes and security, prayer and family solutions, solutions arrived at with the help of local Karen leaders and the Baptist minister, nurturing Karenness through Baptist church schools, and then dealing with outsiders and avoiding the state. I concluded my chapter that having a specific identity based on religion and ethnicity play an important role in the village dispute resolution system and forms part of the wider context of legal pluralisms in Yangon city. They tackle problems and disputes relating to health, jobs, theft, marriage, fences, and many learning cases. They prefer prayer, sharing problems in church, mediation, negotiation, and reconciliations to state legal process and punishment. Religious norms and activities around the church influence the local legal order and play an important role in the socializations of children and young people, so social regulation as well as an identity formation. Finally, I try to show urban Karen living in Yangon live peacefully with other ethnicities, and they contribute to reproducing ethnic boundaries as a strategy to maintain peace and security within their own community, and how wider divisions in society within very peaceful and harmonious contexts through the lens of everyday justice and dispute resolutions. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Professor Nguyen. Very fascinating, and especially as for people living in Myanmar, many people may actually know the area you visited, but not understood all these dynamics that you are uncovering. For the next presentation, we'll move on to a distinguished Danish emeritus professor who has been working in Myanmar and in Karen state from actually before I was born, from the 70s. So I would like to introduce Mr. Michael Grabers, who will be talking about being excluded, about Muslim and Hindu communities in Karen state. Please unmute, Michael. We can't hear you. So if you can unmute your microphone and then start again, then we'll be able to understand. Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Yes, that's very good.
My name is Michael Grabers. I'm a Danish anthropologist based in Aarhus University in Denmark. And I worked in the Karen state. And in my team, I had also another Danish anthropologist, Anders Balser Jørgensen, who's now retired from the Danish Foreign Ministry. And we also had 3 brilliant Karen researchers along, Nan Tinila Win, Sosewa, and Soida, who did a great job for us. At first, we worked in Buddhist and Christian Karen villages, and investigating cases on land grab, on drug cases, the new Asia Highway 1 construction. And then we decided to move on to visit Hindu and Muslim villages. And we went into the temple compound of the Tamil Hindu temple in Ba'an. And the first thing they told us was that almost all their land had been grabbed by the nearby army camp. And then they continued to tell us about the problems with identity papers. Whenever they go to the immigration office and apply for new identity papers, if they've lost their old card, or if they ought to renew it, they pay the service money, about 40,000 kyat, and they pay sometimes a very big bribe, and they submit 21 signatures, a blood sample. They take an oath in the court, and they return to the immigration office, and they never get a response. Even after they involved one of the most famous monks in Ba'an, the Tongale Sayadaw, nothing turned up. And the same was the case in 2 Karen Muslim communities we spent time in. They speak Po-Karen as the first language, and they are very close to their Buddhist Po-Karen neighbors. They have to pay even bigger bribes, and they also have to face sometimes arrogant officials. If they get a card, they are now categorized as Bengali Kayin Muslims. That means they're actually classified as foreigners. They have lived in the Karen state for more than 100 years, or their ancestors came more than 100 years ago. On top of this, these 2 groups have to face rules set up by Mabatha monks, saying they are not allowed, or urging Buddhists not to trade with them, not to sell houses or sell land, and of course not to intermarry with them. So my question is now, this bureaucratic exclusion, which means that they cannot vote, they cannot get examination papers from high school, they cannot enter university, they cannot get a job in state institution. So is this bureaucratic exclusion, is this compatible with the Constitution, with the citizenship law, and with democracy? I don't think so, but maybe you have another opinion about that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you for giving us this insight into a whole different perspective, not just of access to justice in Burma or in ethnic areas, but actually where you have several different communities, or you have communities with different religious backgrounds, and how that plays into this whole issue. We now have one short presentation left. The original presenter, who's also done the research and written the case study in the book, is unfortunately not available today. But we have a stand-in, and that's Helene Maria Kød, who will be presenting on behalf of Annika Pohl Harrison. And this will be under the title of everyday trepidations. But okay, now I'll hand over to her and she will now be saying a few comments.
I will present the chapter 1.
Okay.
Yeah, that I was part of, but I think we take Tampere first.
Okay,
Yeah.
sorry. Yeah, sorry. Sorry, I didn't mean to overlook you, Tampere. It's actually your turn now, and then we'll take Helene afterwards. So Tampere will now be presenting under the title, Are We So Different? Interreligious Collaboration in a Rural Karen Muslim Village in Pa'an Township. And Tampere, if you could just also introduce yourself briefly about your background and your position. Thank you.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Tampere, Department of Anthropology, University of Yangon. Now, I will introduce about my paper. In NIES book, my paper is in chapter 6. The topic of my paper is Are We So Different? Interreligious Collaboration in Korean Muslim Village in Pa'an Township. My paper is based on ethnographic research on local dispute resolution and communal identity in a mixed Korean Muslim village 2016-2019. My argument is Korean and Muslims are different religions, but these two religious communities collaborate in dispute resolution process. There is no ethno-religious conflicts between two religious communities. My study area is a small village and one of peaceful area in Pa'an Township. Both of two religious communities do farming, chicken raising, fishing in the village as a livelihood. That is only village level small cases like that chicken theft case, chicken raisins problem, public disturbance case. That is very rare crime cases in the village. Concerning case resolution, village leader, village respected person solve together village level dispute. If they cannot solve, village leader turn to the village tract administrator. If necessary, village leader may get help from the Korean armed group actors according to their personal condition. For example, Muslim young men drank alcohol and disturbed the public by using motorbike without exhaust, very noisy and very loudly. Korean and Muslim leaders solved this problem by using agreement, but 2 weeks after they commit again, those village leader informed to the village tract administrator. 1 month after, the young men commit again. That's why finally village leader told to the Korean armed group actor. So does he talked to the young man. This is your village. You have to take care of your village and should not disturb to the elder people. If you commit again, I will take action like that warning. After that, they didn't commit. That's why local people prefer informal and local resolution process. They avoid engaging with Myanmar justice system to solve village level cases. If they have crime cases like human trafficking case, drug case, they solve official justice system. Another significant factor is that Muslim religious leaders did not participate in the village level dispute resolution. Similarly, the Buddhist monks in the study area has not involved in secular village affairs. There is no evidence of Mabada organization within the village. And shared play is more important than religious identity. There was evidence during the patrol. Both Korean and Muslim work together patrolling the village not to enter stranger Muslim into the village during the Rakhine crisis in 2017. It is clear there is no ethno-religious conflict between the two religious communities. That's why shared identity based on place can work to reduce conflict, escalation, and tension in such a village. As a conclusion, my paper provide legal pluralism, community-based dispute resolution, and shared identity based on place. Thank you.
Very much. Thank you very much, Sayama. Very fascinating, especially your one of your last comments about, which is at the heart of your paper, about shared identity based on location rather than, for example, ethnicity or religion, but shared identity based on location as a way to resolve disputes. Thank you for your presentation. And now we will go over to Helene, who's also written the long introductory and interesting chapter to the book under the headline "Everyday Justice in a Contested Transition."
Yeah, and just to add to the empirical studies, because I've already some of the general things. I'm very sad that Annika could not be here today, but she could not due to health reasons, because she has a really interesting chapter on urban Mon state in Myanmar, in a poor area of Myanmar, where she also focuses on everyday justice and the forms of state evasion and state effects that occur there. But I don't want to present on behalf of her because she can do it much better than me. So that's why I think instead I will take another chapter, which is also in Mon state. So you also hear some from that area, which is one of the strong areas we did research as well, both in the areas that are officially under Myanmar government control, and we also did research in areas that are under the nominal control of the ethnic armed group, the main ethnic armed group among the Mon, the New Mon State Party. And actually chapter 1 is quite interesting because officially speaking, it is an area with a majority Mon, but it is officially controlled by the Myanmar government, the Myanmar State Administration, General Administrative Department, and the village tract administrator is associated with that system. But once we started looking into this question about everyday justice, about how disputes are resolved and where people prefer to have crimes and disputes resolved, we found that in fact there are still quite strong linkages to the justice system of the New Mon State Party, even though it's located geographically much further away from the nearest township court, that when cases cannot be resolved at the local level, which happens, although that still is a preference also in this village, this is where people tend to go. So basically this chapter is trying to answer the question of what actually happens then if cases cannot be resolved locally, which, as the several of the papers have said, is what people normally prefer. What do people do? And what Tang Son Point, who is actually the main author of this chapter, but it was too late to have her join us here today. She will present at our next webinar with the London School of Economics. So you can tune in on that later on. But what we argue in this chapter is that what we are seeing here is a kind of forum shopping. When people can't resolve cases at the local level, they don't only go to one particular external institution like the state or the New Mon State Party, but they often try out different kinds of options to get their dispute and crimes resolved. And forum shopping is, I don't want to go into a long discussion of that concept now, but it derives from anthropology and basically means that people try out different avenues to get the best justice outcome according to their sort of needs or perceptions of justice. And we also argue that forum shopping in this particular context of this village is very strongly related to a de facto situation of plural authorities. That there are many different kinds of authorities. There's no certainty of who is actually the final authority or who can finally decide in a crime or social dispute, even though we know in Myanmar, as in other countries, that yes, officially the central state law and the central state institutions do have the official final say when it comes to looking at
real life cases, this is a very uncertain terrain. And we discuss how in many ways forum shopping is of course not necessarily only a negative thing. It gives people different options of going other places than the state courts, which they often see as costly, and also people maybe feel shame and don't feel comfortable going to the official state institutions. But at the same time, we also found that when we trace real life cases, as we do in this chapter around an arson case, there's also a lot of uncertainty, because the authorities that are not officially part of the state system do not have this formal authority to actually enforce decisions. So unless there is good social relations, capacity and ability to negotiate between the perpetrator and the victims, it can actually be quite difficult. And in the case that we show in this chapter, what was very interesting for us is that this was not only a matter of ethnicity, that the Mon only wanted to go to Mon-populated institution, because actually this arson case ended up being finally resolved in a secret military group close to the village. So they actually also involved armed actors from the Myanmar army, or the Tatmadaw, as we call it in Myanmar, the Myanmar army area. And this, to me at least, was a bit of a curiosity to begin with. Well, it was easier for me to understand, well, Mon people then prefer to go to the New Mon State Party, the organization that claims to represent their interests. They speak the Mon language. But forum shopping in this context also very much is about trying as much as possible using the kinds of authorities there are to enforce decisions. And another thing that we thought is very critical, and which we can take also into the broader situation, is the role that armed actors still play very much in this field of everyday justice. We are not claiming in the book that this is the case in every village or every ward, but it lurks often in the background with the pluralism of authority, with uncertainty of who actually has a final say. People often, as Tampele also said, in the last instance, instead of going to an official court with laws and rules and judges, people often seek help from nearby armed actors who can step in and put pressure on perpetrators to pay compensation or to finally find some kind of resolution. And this works sometimes for practical reasons for people, but it's also critical in the sense that we see this kind of continued militarization of power that also seeks into this area of what could be, you know, in many ways, very everyday, very banal forms of justice is there in the background. And Mitang Sonpoint and Nanti Lawin have a very interesting chapter. I believe it's chapter 3 in the book, if I'm not wrong, which is also looking at this role of, no, it's not, it is chapter 2. I thought I could remember them all. It's chapter 2 that also looks at what they call the shadow power of armed actors, focusing on the PAU self-administered zone. I really recommend you looking at that chapter as well. And Mitang Sonpoint will also present that at a webinar that will be at the LSE on next Friday. So, but I don't want to say more. I've already said a lot in the beginning, and it also wasn't really me who was supposed to present another chapter. But yeah, thank you. I give the word back to you, Susanne.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So to all of you listening out there, I'm sure some of you have questions. You can ask. You can use the Q&A space on your computer in Zoom, and just write your questions there. It can be questions to any of the different presenters. It can also be a general question that maybe you are, or a comment or a reflection on the issues that we are discussing. We're going to take about 10-15 minutes now, where we will have what you could call an internal discussion. So it will be a discussion between the panelists and me, and then we will, after that, move on to the Q&As. So that's also why I'm asking you to, if there's anything you're wondering, then just write it, and we'll seek to respond to the extent possible. One thing, so as I mentioned before, I've not myself been involved in this project. One thing I would like to ask the panelists, and they haven't been prepared for this question, so it's okay if you don't have big answers. What you've all done it's been a snapshot. So you've been doing research either 2016, 2017, 18. And as far as I know, you're not really compared to how was this situation a long time ago, or how is it changing. But I'm just curious as to if any of you have noticed any change, like whether villagers have said, we didn't used to go to the official court, but we now do that because there's a ceasefire. Or now when there is some form of democracy in Myanmar, we are less fearful. So we speak more openly and discuss issues like this. So my question to any of the panelists who would like to respond is, have you noticed or have people explained to you that the situation is changing or is not changing? And if it is changing, what are the changes that people report to you about the particular issue you have been looking at? So I just want to hear if there's any volunteers among the panelists for this.
Maybe they can raise their hand so you can see who wants to say something.
So my question is, if you can think about, sorry, I don't understand. Michael has, okay, I understand. Michael, you have a comment to this, so we'll let you respond with your thoughts on this.
Yes, I can only speak about the current state where I worked, and it's obvious the situation is much better now after the ceasefire. But one thing really was a puzzle to me, because so many people said, well, Michael, we are still prepared to run away, to flee, because we are very uncertain about this ceasefire. And this was probably because there were fighting going on in Papun area, just north of where we were working. And the armed groups are interfering in all matters, and they're still taking taxes, although this is illegal during the ceasefire. So I mean, it's a complex situation actually, in the current state at least.
Thank you, Michael. I wonder if for that input, I wonder if any of the other panelists have any comments on whether the situation in the specific area where you did research, whether in terms of what we're looking at, informal justice, access to dispute resolution, if you noticed whether people have been doing exactly like they're doing now for many decades, or whether it was changing with Myanmar also having gone through some other changes in the last 10 years. Okay, Luta, yes. I hear and I see you that you have a comment on that. So I'm interested to hear Nagaland. It's far from Yangon, but whether the other changes in Myanmar are actually being reflected on the ground there, related to what we're looking at. So please let us know.
Yes, according to our finding, I in this research I mainly visited to current area and also Naga. So before this, according to my experience and our research finding, it is not much changes in the justice issue. Because of since many years ago, people prefer to use the informal justice system, and also in ethnic area like Naga and Karen, they also prefer to go to the informal justice system. And because of even though the according to my experience in Naga, even though the government infrastructure and government office are more improved, and they built many infrastructure in Naga after 2016. in 2000, maybe 2010, but the justice system is not much changed because our region is now become a set administrative zone. However, they have a very limited legislative power and administrative power, and legislative power for the office side, but that is why people are more flexible and to use the informal justice system and their customary justice system. This is according to our finding. Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you, Luther. That's very interesting, and it made me think of while you were talking that. You were mentioning we're talking about the customary law, we're talking about local leaders, but I have a question which is not just to you, but to all the panelists. You've mentioned, village leaders, administrators, the what in Myanmar is called the Yami Yapa, the sort of respected people in the village. Some of you also mentioned that ethnic armed organizations were also used as a mean to resolve disputes. In Myanmar is very busy now with election campaigning. There will be elections in early November. I'm aware that this research was done during the non-campaign period. At the same time, it is new in Myanmar that for communities, or at least townships, to have MPs representing a constituency. So I was just wondering, and it may be a clear no, but have any of you in your research come across members of parliament being used locally as a mean to resolve disputes? So this is a question for any of the panelists.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, Luther again.
Yeah, according to our experience and our finding, the parliament, the MP is not directly involved in the dispute resolution activity, but they are indirectly involved. For example, if some people have a good connection with the the MP and Mapata monk, and they have like a good connection with the powerful people, they used to get their suggestions and their advice how to go and how to approach the elite people, not elite people, like judge and like powerful people, how to approach so they are like a justice facilitator, or they have like a justice facilitator role. Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you, Luther. Are there any of the other panelists that wants to add anything to this question about the role of members of parliament as in, we're not talking about in the whole country, but in terms of dispute resolution? I just want to double check. Also, if any of the professors have anything to add, no problem if you don't.
I might just add that in the chapter 2 that I referred to before by Mitang Sonpoin and Nantila Win, they actually have a case there, a land dispute case in the Pao self-administered zone, where exactly this role of justice facilitator that Luther
is explaining plays a role in trying to resolve this land confiscation case. So if you're interested in those, look particularly at that case study, definitely gives insights.
Okay, we'll move to the question and answers in less than a minute. But I just wanted to take, now we've been talking very much about what is happening on the ground. So I actually have, well, maybe two questions actually. Well, one reflection and one question. So as somebody myself who've been doing similar research on similar topics back from 2012, I think it's important that we all ask ourselves, why is this kind of research important? Why does it matter? Yes, it's great to know how local people are solving conflicts and disputes, but why? So that will actually be my last, second to last question to this group. Either why, well, let's put the question like this. Why is it important that we look at these issues? And what can be done? So now some of you have documented different forms of dispute resolutions, access to justice in varying degrees. So should it, for policymakers, for organizations that are working on these issues, should it just be left as it is and we will keep observing? Or can anything be done to improve access to justice at the local level, especially for marginalized groups? So I just wonder if any of the panelists have any thoughts about this. This can be small things or bigger things. What can be done to further improve access to justice in Myanmar at the local level? I know it's a big issue. And maybe it's one for policymakers to grapple. Luther has, thank you, Luther. What would you like, and thank you for being so active. What is your suggestion?
Yeah, according to our finding, the justice issue is very important in Myanmar because the many ethnic diversity ethnic living in Myanmar. We have many ethnic and they have their own culture and their own justice system. Because of since many years ago in like Naga, the government cannot reach those areas. But those areas, so and since at that time they have a very strong, unique customary system and justice system already. So they practice those justice things, and they believe they are customary justice method. And also it is very important to recognized by the government, because of, for example, if the government do not recognize the customary justice system, it is the people cannot it is very difficult to get the evidence in the mixed like ethnic area, But local people only rely on their customary justice system. But for the justice facilitator or provider, it is very difficult to provide very good justice system in some like ethnic mixed area. So, but people are more prefer their system. So the government should support and provide a justice issue in the local ethnic area, and also like Korean and like Burmese control area as well. Because when people resolve the case, they only rely on the local justice system. So this is a kind of like the trust building between government and ethnic people. This is my what I think.
Yes, I think we here have a suggestion for the next Myanmar Parliament and next Myanmar government to look into more to its customary law and how that can possibly be incorporated into the Myanmar legal system. Or that's how I was understanding your recommendation, Luther. Before we move on, I just wanted to double check if any of the other panelists had any comments, wants to make any comments on this issue.
Otherwise, I have maybe something to add very shortly. Just adding to Luther, I think why
this book is also important. Of course, I have my own numerous reasons, but I think it related to the question you raised is that it also gives a more nuanced and critical insight into both why there is such a high mistrust in the state system. And here we're looking at the justice system, but I think we could take it more broadly than that, and how significant it is in a context like Myanmar. And when we are talking about moving towards more democratization and moving towards more peace building, if that is the goal and the declared goal as it is. I think the other one is that at the moment the international attention is very much been, of course, on the relationship between Buddhists and Muslims, and I think the taking together Michael's and Tampale's chapter really also goes to the heart of trying to understand these relations, because we have villages that are so close to each other and yet so different, and it really shows that if there are strong internal political interventions that nurture these kind of tensions, then we have an issue. It is not inert to relations between local populations who have been living together for more than 100 years, like in the case of Tampale, where actually by avoiding those kind of external political interferences, so it's not about inert religious or ethnic identity, as Tampale argues, but it's about those kind of bureaucratic indifference that Michael and Anders are speaking about in that chapter. So I think it also gives us insight into these kind of dynamics through the lens of justice that I hope at least people will take with them.
We will now move over to the Q&As. While I will look at the Q&As now, and just for me to catch up on them, and I'll get back to you in less than a minute. And meanwhile, I would ask Helene to talk a little about theory, because now we talk very much about Myanmar society and the case studies, but the book actually also talks about a term called legal pluralism. So if you could just briefly let our viewers know what is meant by legal pluralism in sort of on the theory side of access to justice and dispute resolution.
And as you can hear,
very talkative. I can talk a lot about that concept. So Susanne, please tell me when you're ready to ask the questions. So yes, our book is of course very empirically focused, but we do also have an ambition of contributing to theories within especially legal anthropology on legal pluralism. And besides the fact that not much of this kind of empirical work has been done in Myanmar for various historical reasons, it's been difficult to do ethnography. We are, besides bringing in that kind of empirical comparative dimension to the wider debates about legal pluralism, I think we're also adding, which is very low in the literature, we're adding the role of identity, both ethnic and religious identity and beliefs, in how that influences legal pluralism. And I think there's also a unique experiences and insights to contribute with the fact that in Myanmar we have these parallel state legal system. We have the court system that are quite institutionalized in many of the border areas, run by the ethnic armed organizations. So I think there are some things there that really will bring to those theories. And now I'm getting hands and fingers from Susanne. So, but you're welcome to also ask questions on the theoretical side, of course.
Thank you. And very interesting. And now we have questions from, we have a number of questions. I will assert a bit of discrimination here by picking the Myanmar people, or those with Myanmar names who ask questions online first, and then we'll get to others. I hope that's okay. So we have one question here, and that's definitely for one of our panelists. There's a specific question. Amrimin is a researcher. He would like to know about people in Hlaing Thaya and how they solve cases of theft. Whether there is any different ways of solving a case or a dispute such as theft between the people of Bamar ethnic and other ethnics. And this relates especially to Hlaing Thaya. So I think these questions go over to
Tampale or Luta have done research there. Yeah.
Luta or Tampale. I don't know who of you would like to respond. I can also read the question again if you didn't get it the first time.
So please question again. I didn't hear very much clear.
Oh, so the question is, how do people in Hlaing Thaya solve a case of theft, like if there's a thief? Is there any different ways of solving such a theft case between Bamar ethnic and other ethnics? based on what you have learned. And of course, we can't answer all questions, but go ahead, Seama.
Okay, so according to my research experience in Hlaing Thaya, so Hlaing Thaya, most of cases solve what level? Village tract administrator and local people. They didn't go to the justice system because of they have so many reasons. So one is they cannot spend much time for this case resolution official justice system, and they cannot spend for transportation, food, so many, and then or they have not enough knowledge, not enough legal knowledge. They don't know. Very complicated. That's why my research experience, most of cases solved within the what level. Similarly, in the ethnic area, so reason is nearly the same. Official justice system is very complicated. They are not familiar for this system, and then they understand local dispute resolution process. They understand, and then they know how to solve within the village. They understand, and then very quick resolution. For official justice system is slow slap and take more time. That's why Burma ethnic and then for other ethnic prefer local dispute resolution within the what level.
Thank you, Thampali.
Thank you.
Does this mean that ethnic people living in Hlaing Thaya and Burma living in Hlaing Thaya,
yes,
you have not noticed that they resolve disputes differently? It's quite similar. I also am aware you have not looked into this particularly, but it seems from what you're saying that there's not like an ethnic influence. So I guess back to the question, I think you almost answered it fully, but did you notice that Muslims or Karens or others living in Hlaing Thaya, that they solve their disputes differently from the Burma living in that area? Or was it quite similar?
Yes, I would like to add some point to Seama Thampali. Yes, in Hlaing Thaya, for the death case, most of people do not report to any place for death case because they automatically know if they make complaint to what leader or the police officer, they know most of the case they do not get back. So they do not they usually do not report to the anywhere. And also I also would like to add some ethnic, what is different between ethnic and Burma region. And in the Burma region, I do not want to say Burma region. In Burmese control area, people most in what village and what level, people usually go to what administrator and a village administrator. And then they give a resolution like reconciliations and like labor punishments and they give a labor punishment or something like that. And they also do the Kawon letter. Kawon letter is a kind of like a promise letter not to do that manner again to the perpetrator and offender. And also in the ethnic region, they also use like a Kawon letter and compensations. Also they do, but they have like a very unique system. They have like a ritual like a village cleansings and like we call yuase. It is like a community cleansing. So if a person is commit in rape case, it is not good for their region, for their future. So they clean their community in their regional way. So these kinds of that's difference what we found. Thank you very much.
Can I add one little thing to the Tlaintaya? Because I really recommend that you read Tampale's article in the Independent Journal of Burmese Scholarship. What you will also see there is that the distinction is maybe not so much on ethnicity. Tampale, do you think it's more between informal migrants and people who were settled in Tlaintaya from the late 80s, beginning of 90s from the downtown, who are more established, they have household registers, whereas the informal migrants who don't have any ID and documents, they tend to report much less. So I think there's also different there. That's interesting. That doesn't necessarily follow ethnicity, but more whether you have formal or not formal status.
Interesting. We have a question that I think several of the panelists can respond to. I'll just find it here. It's from Yetuk. Yetuk from Myanmar is asking, what types of disputes are most common in mixed control areas, and what local dispute mechanisms are common practice on the ground?
Okay.
Panelist who has a comment on it, and Luther, you're very welcome. It would be great if any of the other panelists also has some comments so we can bring them in.
You mean disputes?
Okay, so the question is, what type of dispute, or you could say conflict or problem, what type of dispute are most common in mixed control areas? So what's the most common issue that there's a dispute over in mixed control areas? And what are the local dispute mechanisms?
In my research area, I share some disputes. Yeah, in my research area, I have some disputes, resolutions, and perceptions, and security cases. In that areas, disputes most commonly we can see types of disputes are family disputes, and also sometimes neighbor disputes about funds, and sometimes disputes about money lending and they didn't pay back something, and also sometimes disputes between the youth men, just that type of disputes in my research area I saw mostly. And that disputes are not serious disputes. They are just being the local level and community level. Because of that, they resolve these disputes within their community level and 100 household leaders level, and didn't go to the court or some ward administrators level.
Thank you. Okay. Yeah, that's great.
Michael also had.
Michael, understand you also would like to add something here from your great and vast experience.
The most urgent problem in the current state is land grabbing. And this is also the most difficult thing to solve, because so many problems arise from people do not have title deeds. And then you have the new laws on virgin land and unoccupied land. So that means it's very easy to grab land. And then the next problem is who can help you on this? If you go to representatives of the armed groups, they're really doing land grabbing in big scale. If you go to the monks, I discovered that even the monks are involved in land grabbing at a big scale. So, but some of the monks will help to mediate these cases. But this is really a serious problem for everyone. For example, along the new Asia One highway, it's a Chinese company, but it's guarded by the border guard force, and it's impossible to get any compensation from land grab there.
Thank you, Michael. So here we hear that in some places, and I think many places in Myanmar, it would be land grabbing, and in other places, it would be more what the professor explained before, could be disputes in the home. We have a question which I will answer from Hang Sa Tong, which the question is whether the book covers Chin State. And no, it does not cover Chin State. Kachin State, for example, Shan are also not covered.
Pao, self-administration.
So it's not, there's not a particular reason for this. I think it will be interesting if anybody, maybe yourself, had a chance to look more into some of these issues in Chin, Kachin, and other areas, both customary law and general access to justice. There's also a few other studies done on this. I don't have the link here, but maybe we can add it later. Then we have a question about the role of the GAD. So for those of you who may be listening, but who are not entirely familiar with the Myanmar bureaucracy, the GAD is the General Administration Department. It's also viewed as the backbone of the administration in Myanmar, and it's a quite powerful department, especially at the township level, both for coordination, but also for making decisions on a number of issues. So we have the question about the GAD is from Jack Hill. His question is now, the role of GAD in dispute resolution, and what is the relationship between village-based GAD administrators and customary authorities? I think just to clarify, what he means is when, and I hope I'm right in interpreting your question, Jack, when you say GAD administrators at the village level, I assume you mean like the local administrators in Myanmar language, they will be known as the Chiua Osu Ocho Yemu or the Yakwe Ocho Yemu. So the part of this question is, what is the relationship, especially when we talk about dispute resolution, between the village tract, the ward administrators, and customary authorities? Helene, do you have a suggestion? Who of you may want to answer this question?
I think everybody could answer, because my answer would, or general answer would be that it very much depends on the context. Because I mean, maybe Luta can start and explain how it is in the Goga village, relationship between customary and GAD village leader, because there you have one system, and then we can move on to talk about the others.
Yeah. In Goga Naga village, we found that they have two justice system. One is GAD side and one is customary. They have literature and culture committee, but both of they are the same. Both of they are the same. And also they have a tribal leader. The tribal leader, most of the customary are come from the tribal leader. All of the customary law come from the local practices. So the GAD, the village administrator and the customary justice provider work together. They work together in the village level, and they trial the case together. They trace the case together, and they work together. Yes.
Anybody else who wants to contribute to answering this question about how the GAD mandated village tract or ward administrator, what is the relationship between him or her with the customary authorities or the other village leaders when it comes to this dispute resolution. So, okay, I also think that was a very thorough response. So I'll move on to some of the other questions. So just keep sending questions. Here's a general one, and the question is, to all the professors and panelists, my question is, if the people prefer to use only the local dispute resolution, how much justice is actually served? How fair is it? So who would like to respond to that actually very fundamental question of, yes, we have local dispute mechanisms, but how fair are they?
I can share?
Yes.
Yeah. Local disputes solutions within 100 household leader level to the ward administrator level. Most of the residents of the Karen residents prefer to resolve within their own community level and 100 household level. Especially they prefer to the Baptist Karen 100 household leaders more. And but sometimes they share some of their cases to the ward administrators level. But fortunately, my research area, there's no big crime. Because of that, they don't want to need to go to the ward administrator level. It's family disputes, marriage disputes, and friends disputes. Only they can share within their own community and religious leaders. Sometimes they consult with the church ministers and also their village elderly, respectful village leaders. And these disputes will be negotiation and mediation by them. And no need to be severally, they have to suffer by these disputes resolutions. So I think during the local level, dispute resolution is fair. They're only afraid to go to the court because they didn't believe in court a lot according to their past experience. Because of that, they prefer to resolutions within their own community more. And they thought that the leaders resolve their problems within mutual understanding, and negotiation is better, and they like to negotiate and mediation, negotiation, and considerations more. And I think in my research area, they thought that it is within their local level, it's fair.
Just a follow-up question, Professor Nguyen, by one of the other people who have been posting questions.
Yes.
And this question is especially for you, Nguyen Mon. How would you define the term security in your research? And what were the villagers trying to seek security from or security against?
Yes, I saw that question too. So I would like to answer first questions, the meanings of security. In my research area, security means by the insiders and outsiders. Outsider means they are neighboring villages of that area, is that they can live peacefully and securely within their that physical area of Gasako area. And then they mean security is that there's no big criminal cases and crimes, and also no serious disputes in their areas. This is their meanings of security. And also another questions about villagers against that security issues or something. And that I already told something that current villagers, residents in that area would like to dispute resolution within their own community, and they prefer to live their Baptist Karen only in their village more, and they build their ethnic identity within their community more. And they believe that within they live in the Karen Baptist together in that area, they feel they secure peace and security. Most of my residents interviews told me that there is a peace and security in the village because we are Karen and because we live together as Karen. That's their answer. So they believe that there's a strong connections between shared ethnic community identity and security or peace. And although they said that if there is something theft case or something happens, thefts are not their villagers. They are outsiders. They are non-Karen, something like that. So they try to combat their ethnic community within their own village, and they didn't sell their houses or land to the other ethnic groups as much as they can. And even that areas, there's three portions of village, and over 95% are the so-called Karen Baptists only. They are the same religion, they are the same ethnicity, and they live themselves within their community is safe. They thought that. And also they believe ethnic identity and security is strongly correlations and connections.
Thank you for that very thorough response, Lewin Mon.
Yeah.
Now we have to go to Africa, because there's a question here from somebody who has been following Helene's work previously in Mozambique. And this is, pardon me if the pronunciation is not correct, this is a question from Thompson Judu Kwakie. And the question is, I would like to ask how she, Helene, reconcile the use of traditional structures as informal dispute resolution mechanisms in Myanmar with those she observed in Mozambique or Swaziland. So I think if we simplify the question, what are actually the differences or the similarities between this informal dispute resolution in Myanmar with those in Mozambique or Swaziland in Africa?
Very interesting question. I haven't done a systematic analysis, but of course, all the time I compare in my head. And I wanted to start maybe with a little funny story first, because when I first started the project and the Seyama and Luta, you will remember some of the teaching I did. I also shared some of my work from Mozambique and Swaziland. And I think you thought it was very different. And I remember one of the things that inspired some of the questions we asked in Myanmar, and which I don't think had really been asked before, was the role of spiritual actors, astrologers, monks, spirit mediums in Myanmar. Because in Myanmar, when you ask people about justice and dispute resolution, immediately they will say that, no, they have nothing to do with that. But then once we actually start looking at cases, Luta, you must remember also, and I think Tang Son is listening here as well, then we could actually see that these actors played a strong role. Tang Son has done a beautiful piece on how especially women in Mon State in the Independent Journal of Burmese Scholarship especially use this religious spiritual domain. And I think that's something I brought with me from Mozambique, because there it's much more explicit, and in Swaziland as well, that you go to the witch doctor, and that witchcraft and understandings of spirits and witchcraft are part of the way you understand crimes and disputes, are part of the way that you resolve things. So that's just to sort of say how questions or insights from one context, Southern Africa, inspired questions in Myanmar. But besides that, of course, there are lots of differences. Especially the role of identity politics and ethnic diversity in Myanmar is an extremely different factor. I'm not saying that in other African contexts it doesn't play a role, but certainly in the Mozambican context, it doesn't play a role in whether you access justice at the local level or not, what ethnicity you have, from what I have observed, which is very strong in Myanmar. Another is the kind of striving for conflict de-escalation in Myanmar, or conflict avoidance, as we sometimes translate it to. There's a lot of underreporting, even within the local structures, the sense of shame and loss of dignity that people feel when they report cases, which is also something that's very important to understand. With the previous question we had about, is there justice, is it felt as fair, that we need to really understand that what I know from Mozambique, where people have no problem reporting cases or coming forth or speaking out or asking for punishment, is very different in the Myanmar context. And that may, in certain relations, is cultural. Some of it is influenced by Buddhism, different kinds of influences. So I think that is a huge difference, and something that when also international agencies are doing justice sector reform or legal empowerment, they have to really consider that, especially in the Myanmar context, if they come with models or experiments from Africa, other places where it's much more sort of customary or routinized to bring out cases in the public and in the open. That was a long answer, but I'm very passionate about this field.
Answer. So you don't have to apologize for
Okay.
that. And now we actually have a question where I will respond. I will give some of the answer, and then I'll leave it to the panelists. So the question is from Paul Rice, who is a PhD researcher at the School of Global Studies in Gothenburg, which is in Sweden, just next door to Denmark, where he is focusing on the issue of transition and ethnic minority rights in Myanmar. So Paul is asking, are ethnic parties or representatives of ethnic armed organizations, are they also making demands for formal recognition of customary justice systems to local authorities, or in national parliament, or in the national political dialogue of the NCA, the peace process? So in other words, are the ethnic leaders making formal demands to have customary systems recognized? What I can talk about, which is not covered in the book, relates more to land issues, where there is, and as most of you will know, given that the peace process has slowed down, there has for quite a while not been any detailed discussion as part of the nationwide ceasefire agreement on things like customary law, natural resource, sharing of natural resources. But there are several, at least the KNU, supports and make demands for recognition of customary land rights. This, in this case, is being done through, there's both the forest law that was passed last year, the year before, and there's another law on land, waste, fallow, virgin land, where the KNU, either formally or through some of the civil society organizations that work in the area, seek to promote what's called ICCA, and that's where local communities are allowed to conserve the forest or the streams themselves. That's what I know. I also know that at the moment, where it's an interim period, of course, several of the ethnic armed organizations do have their own laws, and they are allowed to administer them in this interim situation that does of course not mean that if the KNU or the KIA or somebody else has a law, that doesn't mean it's necessarily customary. So that's what I know about it, but maybe some of the other panelists knows of examples from Naga, from Karen leaders, other Karen leaders, Mon leaders, whether they are trying to get recognition for customary rights. So does anybody have a comment on that?
Yes. Yes, thank you. Thank you very much, Susanne. Yes, I would like to add for Naga. Yes, in Naga, we also found that the ethnic, like CSO and like literature and culture committee also, they have very strong demand to get the customary justice recognition by the state government. And also they propose that, that they are proposed in the 21st century in 2017. Yes, thank you very much.
Sorry, I'm muted. Can you unmute? We have time for one final question. And there's one here that I think is interesting for everybody, which is asked by a Sophia Mortensen. And her question is to the researchers: did you notice any difference in access to dispute resolution depending on gender and age? If yes, did it vary depending on the level of dispute resolution, local versus the state? So if we take the first one, have you noticed differences in dispute resolution, whether it was a man or a woman, a young person, an older person, maybe somebody who's very prominent in the community and somebody who is not?
Yes, thank you very much. According to our finding, women, most of the women do not go to propose their case than men, because it is because of their religious belief, and they think it is their bad past life bad deed. So they think this is their past life deed, and they pay back. They need to pay back their bad deed in this present life. So this is one thing, and another thing is that they think it is very shameful to go to justice center like a court or police station. If they said that it is like doing black spot in their life, like also like that. And also then on the other hand, the women feel shame, and they think the other people look down to them if they go to the police station. So most of the women does not want to go to police stations, or they do not want to propose their case to in front of the people. Yes, thank you very much.
Any comments from any of the other panelists on this issue of access to dispute resolution and both women or age? It could also be on ethnicity or other marginalized groups.
If no one else.
No, I think
good. Yeah.
And then.
So according to my research experience in Hlaing Daya, most of young women, most of young people face they face like a case, but in most of people are women in Hlaing Daya. But in current state, my study area, no female in the case, most are men. Thank you.
Thank you. And Helena, did you want to add?
Yeah, I just wanted to add that this looking at the different ways that people access justice, the gender aspect has already been mentioned. I think Michael and Anders' chapter is very clear that religious identity, yes, it varies also. If you are a Muslim, if you are Hindu, your access to justice, even in the local informal institutions, are reduced. We also found cases in Mon State where there was a minority of Bama labor migrants, informal migrants, very difficult for them to access justice in the local institutions. And then chapter 2 also puts a general point forward is that if there are powerful, economically, political, powerful or armed actors involved in a case, other people have a very low chance, whether it's land confiscations or other kinds of cases, in getting justice. So these kind of differences definitely do play a role in addition to gender.
And on that note, we will be completing this webinar. So thank you to all of you in Myanmar, whether you are under the stay-at-home restrictions in Yangon or up in the Naga hills or out in the Karen jungles or anywhere else. Also, thank you to people around the world who have been following this. And of course, to the panelists and the researchers and anybody who's supported them. Just as you could see, mentioned, the book will be available in Myanmar. We don't know yet because of the border situation at the moment. And there are also a prior journal, the journal
Independent Journal of Burmese Scholarship, yes.
Independent Journal of Burmese Scholarship, which you can look for online, where not the same articles, but articles by the same team are published. So from a sunny autumn afternoon in Copenhagen, please take care, and thank you for being part of this exciting investigation.
And thank you, Susanne.
Thank you.